Hi, my name is Henry Martin. I need to tell you something that happened to me on September 14th, 2023. I died that day for exactly 6 minutes and 43 seconds, and what I saw and heard during that time changed my life forever. Before that day, I was a successful businessman living in New York. I had everything: wealth, status, influence, but I never truly believed in God. Faith was something other people leaned on. But after dying and meeting Jesus, everything changed. What I saw about the future of this world, about Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and the mark of the beast, will shake you to the core. It was supposed to be just another day. I woke up early, checked my phone, and scanned through my emails. Business was good. My company had just landed a major contract with a global client. Life was perfect, at least on the surface. I lived in a penthouse overlooking Central Park. I had the kind of wealth most people could only dream of. That morning, I had a meeting with some investors at a high-end restaurant in Manhattan. I remember getting dressed, putting on my Rolex, and sliding behind the wheel of my Tesla. Traffic was heavy, but I wasn't worried. Deals like this were routine for me. I was halfway across the George Washington Bridge when it happened. 1 second I was driving, thinking about what I was going to say in the meeting. The next, I heard the sound of brakes screeching and metal crushing. There was no time to react. A semi-truck had swerved into my lane. I remember the impact, the sound of glass shattering, my body being thrown forward. Then, silence. I could feel the life draining from me. My chest tightened, my vision blurred. My hands slipped from the steering wheel as the car spun out of control. I remember hearing distant voices, people screaming, but it all faded as darkness pulled me under. Suddenly, I was floating above my body. I could see the wreckage. My Tesla was twisted beyond recognition. Paramedics were pulling me from the wreckage. One of them yelled, "We've got no pulse." Another said, "He's gone." But I wasn't gone. I was watching all of it from above. I should have been terrified, but instead I felt calm. I floated higher, watching the scene below as the paramedics worked desperately to revive me. I could hear every word they were saying with perfect clarity. Then I started to feel a pull, like something was calling me. A light appeared in the distance. It wasn't just bright, it was alive. The pull became stronger, and even though I had no body, I felt myself being drawn toward it. I heard a voice in my mind. "Henry, come." I knew that voice. Somehow I knew exactly who it was, and that's when everything changed. I didn't walk toward the light, I was pulled toward it. It felt like every cell in my body, or whatever form I was in, was being drawn by an invisible force. I wasn't scared. In fact, I felt lighter than I ever had before. The pain was gone. The stress, the anxiety, the noise of the world, all of it disappeared. As I moved closer to the light, I noticed that I could hear something. Music. Not music like we have on Earth. It was more like thousands of voices singing in perfect harmony. The sound filled me with warmth and peace. Then I realized I was standing on something, or maybe just existing in a space that felt like ground. I looked down and saw light beneath me. The sky wasn't blue. It was golden and shifting like it was alive. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. A figure appeared in front of me, tall, strong, glowing. "Henry," the figure said. It was Jesus. I knew it without anyone telling me. His eyes, they weren't just looking at me. They were looking into me, into my soul. He knew everything about me, my thoughts, my sins, my victories, my regrets. And yet he didn't look at me with judgment. He looked at me with love. "Come with me," he said, reaching out his hand. I took his hand. and immediately the space around us changed. We were no longer in the golden light. We were standing above the earth. I could see cities, oceans, and mountains beneath us. "I have something to show you," he said. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stood there watching as scenes unfolded beneath us. First, I saw the world as it is now, people working, living, surviving. Then it shifted. I saw chaos, protests in the streets, governments collapsing, financial markets crashing, people crying out for answers. That's when I saw him. As Jesus guided me through the vision, I realized that the light wasn't just coming from one place. It was surrounding us. It pulsed with energy, almost as if it was alive. The music grew louder, but it wasn't harsh. It was beautiful. Jesus took my hand and pointed toward the horizon. The scene changed again. I saw a figure standing in front of a massive crowd. The man was charismatic, confident, and familiar. It was Elon Musk. Elon was standing behind a podium, announcing the launch of a new technology. He held up a small microchip. The crowd cheered. People were waving signs and chanting his name. "This chip will change everything," Elon said. "It will protect you from identity theft, give you direct access to financial systems, and even link your mind to the global network." The people loved it. They lined up to receive it. "Watch carefully," Jesus said. "This is how it begins." Then I saw how the chip worked. People could pay for food and travel with a wave of their hand. They could access information just by thinking about it. It seemed harmless, even helpful. But then I saw the cost. People who accepted the chip began to change. Their eyes lost light. Their smiles faded. They became cold, disconnected from the world. Worse, they stopped praying. They stopped believing. The chip wasn't just controlling their finances. It was controlling their souls. "The enemy will not come with threats," Jesus said. "He will come with solutions." Jesus turned toward me, his eyes filled with sadness. "Henry, you must tell them." I couldn't speak. My mind was still trying to process what I had seen. "But why would they accept it?" I finally asked. "Because they will trust the wrong leaders," Jesus said. "They will look for answers from man instead of from God, and the enemy knows this." I saw another figure on the horizon. It was Donald Trump. He was standing behind a podium, promising to restore peace and stability. He was confident and strong, and people listened. "Trump will rise to power again," Jesus said, "and he will speak the truth at first, but even he will be misled." I watched as Trump signed agreements, United Nations, and enforced policies to bring peace. At first it worked, but then the mark came. "It will seem like progress," Jesus said. "It will seem like safety, but it will be a trap." My heart sank. People were cheering, but I could see the darkness behind it. "You must tell them, Henry," Jesus said. "Tell them before it's too late." I felt a rush of energy, and suddenly I was falling backward. The music faded, the light dimmed, and then I opened my eyes. I was back in my broken body, lying on a hospital bed. But nothing would ever be the same. After showing me Elon Musk and the introduction of the microchip, Jesus extended his hand toward the horizon. Suddenly, the entire scene changed. It was like watching time fast forward. Cities rose and fell, people changed, and the world transformed before my eyes. I saw the United States first. It wasn't the America I knew. There was chaos in the streets, protests, riots, and conflict everywhere. Major cities were burning, people were desperate, and there was a strong sense of fear and hopelessness in the air. People were hungry, angry, and desperate for answers. The government seemed overwhelmed, fractured. Then I saw a figure stepping forward, and the crowd immediately calmed. It was Elon Musk again. He was standing on a massive stage with screens behind him, displaying the words, "A new beginning." He spoke calmly and confidently. His voice echoed across the square. "We have the solution," Elon said. "The world has suffered long enough. We need order. We need security. We need to unite." Behind him, the screens began showing images of food shortages, homelessness, violence, and desperation. He lifted a small device in his hand, the same chip I had seen earlier. "With this, you won't need cash. You won't need ID, your health records, your bank accounts, your identity, all secured in one place. Life will be easier. No more fear. No more hunger." People cheered. Some were crying with relief. But Jesus tightened his grip on my hand. "Watch closely," he said. The scene shifted. I saw people lining up to get the chip. Some hesitated at first, but once they saw how easy life became, more and more people accepted it. Stores no longer accepted cash or credit cards. You had to have the chip. Doctors wouldn't treat you unless you had the chip. Transportation, access to jobs, even communication, it was all tied to the chip. Then the scene darkened. I saw people who refused the chip being denied entry to grocery stores. They were blocked from entering buildings. Eventually, they were being arrested for non-compliance. "Do you see how easily it happens?" Jesus asked. I saw families turning on each other. Children begged their parents to get the chip because they were hungry. I saw churches split, some pastors claiming it was a blessing from God, others warning that it was the mark of the beast. The division was sharp. "Even my followers will be deceived," Jesus said, "because it will not come as a threat. It will come as an answer." My heart broke as I watched believers losing their faith, not because they were forced, but because they couldn't see the trap. And Elon Musk, he stood at the center of it all, not as a tyrant, but as a savior. "This is the first step," Jesus said, "and they will take it willingly." I stared at the vision unfolding before me. Elon Musk was no longer just a businessman. He was the architect of this new system. What struck me most was how easily people trusted him. He was calm, measured, and logical, not threatening but persuasive. "Why him?" I asked Jesus. "Because he holds the key to technology," Jesus replied. "The world trusts him because they believe in technology more than they believe in me." The scene shifted. I saw Elon sitting in a boardroom surrounded by global leaders. Nations that had been enemies were suddenly cooperating. The US, Russia, China, and even the Middle East were aligned under a single economic system. They were signing agreements and shaking hands. "He will unify the nations," Jesus said, "not through war, but through technology." I saw the microchip system expanding. People were able to make transactions with a simple wave of their hand. Medical treatments were automated. Disease was being eliminated. Hunger was decreasing. On the surface, it looked like paradise. "But what's wrong with that?" I asked. "Because they no longer trust in me," Jesus replied. "They trust in Elon. They trust in the system. They trust in human wisdom." Then I saw something disturbing. People who took the chip were no longer able to feel God's presence. Their prayers felt empty. Their hearts became cold. It was subtle at first, a growing numbness. They still attended church. They still spoke about God, but it was mechanical, hollow. "The chip is not just technology," Jesus said. "It's spiritual. It changes their ability to respond to me." Then Elon made an announcement. A new phase of the program was starting, direct neural integration. Now the chip wouldn't just manage finances and identity, it would sync directly with people's minds. Thoughts could be monitored, behavior could be adjusted. And they will accept it, Jesus said, because it will make life easier. I saw Elon standing on a platform. People were kneeling before him, not as a god, but as a leader, a savior. Then the scene darkened. It will begin with convenience, Jesus said. It will end with control. The vision shifted again. Now I saw Donald Trump. He was older, but still sharp, confident and powerful. He stood behind a podium at a massive rally. The crowd was roaring. Trump raised his hand, and the crowd immediately fell silent. "America will rise again," he said. "We will take back our power. We will restore order. We will put an end to chaos." I saw world leaders standing behind him. Flags of many nations waved in the background. There was unity, strength, but there was also tension. I could feel it. Something was off. "He will rise to power again," Jesus said, "but even he will be misled." Trump signed an agreement, a global pact for security and peace. The deal united nations under a single economic and political system. Religious leaders blessed the agreement. Markets surged. People celebrated. "They will believe they have achieved peace," Jesus said, "but it will not last." Then I saw Trump signing another order, this time requiring the chip for employment, banking and healthcare. He presented it as a necessity for national security. Most people accepted it without question, including Christians. "He will think he's doing the right thing," Jesus said, "but he will be deceived." I saw Trump standing beside Elon Musk at a press conference. They smiled and shook hands. The crowd cheered. "The political and the technological will become one," Jesus said, "and then the trap will close." The scene became dark. Nations were no longer divided, they were united. The microchip was now global. People couldn't work, travel, or buy food without it. "This is the system," Jesus said. I saw people who refused the chip. At first they were denied services. Then they were banned from working. Finally they were arrested. Families were torn apart. Parents begged their children to comply so they wouldn't starve. "Compliance will be rewarded," Jesus said. "Resistance will be punished." I saw churches with empty pews. I saw Christian leaders, the same ones who had warned about the mark of the beast, now promoting the chip. "Even my church will be divided," Jesus said. Then I saw people hiding underground, secret communities. They were growing their own food, trading among themselves. I saw angels among them, protecting them. Light surrounded these groups even as darkness fell over the rest of the world. "My faithful ones will be provided for," Jesus said, "but they will suffer for their faith." Then I saw Elon and Trump standing together in a hall of gold. Behind them stood men in suits, and something else, dark shadows, figures that were not human. "They will not know who controls them," Jesus said, "but you must tell my people. They need to know before it's too late." The vision shifted again. I was no longer standing beside Jesus. I was in the middle of a crowded city street. The people around me looked normal, but there was something different about them. Their expressions were blank, lifeless. They moved mechanically, without emotion or awareness. I noticed something strange about their hands. Many of them had a faint glow under the skin, a small pulsating light embedded in the back of their right hands. Some also had the same light on their foreheads. My chest tightened as I realized what I was looking at. "It's the mark," Jesus said. I turned to see him standing beside me. His eyes were full of sadness. He lifted his hand toward the crowd, and suddenly I could see more than just their physical appearance. I could see into their spirits. Their souls were dark, lifeless. "They have been marked," Jesus said, "and they do not even know what they have lost." I watched as people walked into stores, paying for things with a wave of their hand. They unlocked doors with a touch. A young mother held her toddler, who had a small mark on his hand too. The child looked pale and emotionless. It's not just about technology, Jesus explained. The mark is a spiritual contract. By accepting it, they give up their freedom to choose me. I saw a man standing at a checkpoint. He held out his hand, and the security officer scanned it. The light on the back of his hand flickered green, and he was allowed through. Behind him, another man stepped forward and raised his hand. But there was no mark. The security officer's face hardened. "You don't have the mark?" "No," the man said, his voice shaking. "Step aside," the officer said. The man was pulled away by soldiers in dark uniforms. He screamed as they dragged him down the street. No one reacted. The crowd didn't even look up. "They have become numb," Jesus said. "The mark doesn't just change the body, it changes the heart." I saw people who had taken the mark standing inside churches. The pastors were preaching about unity, peace, and acceptance. "This is not a sin," one of the pastors said, holding up his marked hand. "God wants us to prosper. This technology is a gift." The congregation nodded in agreement. Their eyes were glazed over, empty. "Why are they accepting this?" I asked. "Because it solves their problems," Jesus said. "Because it makes life easier. They will not see the cost until it's too late." I saw a man standing in front of his house. He was praying. His hands were shaking. His children were crying inside. Across the street, armed officers watched him. "They will take everything from those who refuse it," Jesus said. "Their homes, their jobs, even their families." I saw the man taken away. His children were screaming as soldiers dragged him down the street. The door to his house was marked with a red symbol. "This will not happen suddenly," Jesus said. "It will happen gradually, so slowly that they will not realize they are enslaved until they are already bound." I watched as the scene darkened. The people with the mark stood in orderly lines waiting for instructions. Their faces were empty. "Their souls are no longer their own," Jesus said. "Once they take it, they cannot undo it." "Why?" I whispered. "Why can't they turn back?" "Because the mark is not just technology," Jesus said. "It is a spiritual signature, a covenant with darkness. Once they give their souls away, they cannot take them back." I felt a deep sense of grief as the crowd marched toward a massive building with glowing lights. "Tell them, Henry," Jesus said. "Tell them not to take it, no matter what it costs." The scene shifted again. I was standing in a large hall made of glass and steel. Rows of people stood before a massive screen. On the screen was Elon Musk's face. He was calm, smiling. "We are entering a new era of peace and prosperity," Elon said. "The chip has solved the problems of hunger, disease, and security. The world is united. We have no more fear." The crowd erupted in applause. They were cheering and clapping, but I could see it, the emptiness in their eyes. "Watch closely," Jesus said. I saw a young woman in the crowd. She was smiling, but when I looked into her eyes, I saw fear beneath the surface. She turned to her friend. "Something feels wrong," she whispered. "Relax," her friend said. "This is progress." "But I don't feel anything anymore," the young woman said. "I used to pray. I used to feel God's presence. But now, nothing." Her friend smiled weakly. "It's just the adjustment period," she said. "Give it time." The young woman's face fell. I could see the emptiness growing inside her. "They will feel nothing," Jesus said, "because the connection to me has been severed." I saw people trying to pray. They folded their hands and spoke the words, but there was no response. Their hearts were blocked. Their ability to respond to me has been destroyed, Jesus said. That's why they cannot turn back. I saw pastors standing at pulpits, but their sermons were empty. The Holy Spirit was gone. The people in the pews sat quietly, emotionless. It's not that I stopped speaking to them, Jesus said. It's that they can no longer hear me. I watched as families sat down for dinner. They weren't speaking. They were just sitting there, looking at their hands. The light under their skin pulsed faintly. They were connected, but disconnected. They are no longer free, Jesus said. What happens to them? I asked. They will follow the system, Jesus said, until the end. The vision changed again. Now I saw stock markets crashing. Red numbers flashed across massive screens. Banks were closing their doors. People stood in line outside financial institutions, desperate to withdraw their money. It will start with a collapse, Jesus said. Then Elon Musk appeared on the screen. He was calm, the only voice of reason in the chaos. We have a solution, Elon said. A new digital currency, no more inflation, no more market crashes, stability at last. The chip was now the key to accessing the new system. Without it, you couldn't buy food, pay rent, or travel. They will accept it because they have no choice, Jesus said. I saw businesses closed, people losing their homes, families sleeping in their cars. Then I saw those with the chip. They were fine. They were still employed, still able to buy food. Compliance will be rewarded, Jesus said. Refusal will mean suffering. I watched as people who refused the chip were forced out of their homes. They were denied medical care. Tell them, Jesus said. They need to prepare now. The scene darkened. I saw Christians gathering in secret. They were meeting in basements, in fields, and in small homes. They read from hidden Bibles by candlelight. They will be hunted, Jesus said. I saw soldiers knocking on doors. People were dragged from their homes. Those who refused the chip were arrested, imprisoned, and sometimes worse. They will be labeled as extremists, Jesus said, dangerous to society. I saw families turning against each other, children begging their parents to take the chip so they could survive. Even families will betray each other, Jesus said. Then I saw miracles, food appearing where there was none, angels surrounding believers, protection in the darkest places. I will provide for them, Jesus said, just as I provided for Elijah in the wilderness. But they must prepare now, Jesus said, before it's too late. The vision shifted again. Now I saw a small village surrounded by hills and trees. The houses were simple, made of wood and stone, and there were gardens everywhere. People were working with their hands, planting crops, gathering water from a nearby stream, and raising animals. It looked peaceful, but more than that, it felt protected. These are my faithful ones, Jesus said. I walked through the village. I saw men building homes with hand tools. Women were preparing food over open fires. Children were running through fields, laughing. Despite the simplicity of their lives, there was peace. I could feel it in the air, a deep sense of security and harmony that was completely absent from the rest of the world. A man approached me, holding a basket of fruit. He smiled warmly and handed me an apple. We share everything here, he said. What we have is enough. How are they surviving without the mark? I asked Jesus. Because I am providing for them, he said. I watched as a woman prayed over a small patch of soil. As her hands touched the ground, green sprouts began to push through the earth. The crops were growing faster than they should have. Rain began to fall gently, even though the sky was clear. I will give them food, water, and shelter, Jesus said. But more than that, I will give them peace. I saw a man standing at the edge of the village watching the forest. He looked calm but alert. "They are being hunted," Jesus said. Suddenly I saw dark figures approaching through the trees, soldiers in black uniforms, their weapons drawn. They moved silently toward the village. But as they stepped past the tree line, something happened. A wall of light appeared in front of them. They stopped, confused. One of the soldiers raised his weapon, but the light intensified, forcing them to shield their eyes. "They cannot see them," Jesus said, "because my hand protects them." I saw angels walking among the villagers, tall, radiant beings with swords of light strapped to their sides. They were standing guard at the edges of the village. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were sharp and focused. "As in the days of Elijah, I will provide for my people," Jesus said. "Manna from heaven, water from the rock. Nothing will harm them." I saw people gathering in the center of the village for worship. They stood in a circle, hands raised, singing praises to God. The sound of their voices echoed across the hills. The peace was tangible, as if the very air around them was alive with the presence of God. "The world will call them outcasts," Jesus said, "but they are my children. They will lack for nothing." I saw a young girl kneeling by a small stream, her hands in the water. A bright fish swam toward her hand, and she laughed. Behind her, an older woman was weaving a basket. The scene was so simple, yet so filled with joy and peace. "But not all will find this refuge," Jesus said. "Only those who trust me completely." I turned and saw a man standing at the edge of the village. He was hesitant, unsure. He had no mark, but I could see the fear in his eyes. "He must choose," Jesus said. "Trust in me or trust in the world." The man stepped forward. A villager reached out a hand. Slowly the man took it and stepped into the village. The fear on his face faded, replaced by peace. "There is still time," Jesus said, "but not much." Jesus turned to face me. His expression was serious, but there was love in his eyes. He placed his hands on my shoulders and spoke directly to me. "Henry, you must tell them," he said. "Tell them what?" I asked. "That the time is near," Jesus said. "Tell them that I am coming soon, but they must be prepared." He raised his hand, and the vision of the world's future appeared again in the sky above us. I saw chaos spreading, riots, famines, wars, and natural disasters. I saw governments falling. Military forces marched through city streets. People were begging for help. And Elon Musk was there, holding up the solution. "They will look to him for salvation," Jesus said, "but it will be a trap." Then I saw Donald Trump standing behind a podium. He was signing a document. Elon Musk stood beside him. The screen behind them showed the words, "United World Order." "Even those who know me will be deceived," Jesus said. "How can they resist?" I asked. "By knowing my voice," Jesus said. "By trusting me even when the world calls them fools." He reached out his hand and touched my forehead. Suddenly, I saw the world from a different angle. I could see the spiritual forces behind the events, dark figures standing behind world leaders, whispering in their ears. I saw chains wrapped around the hands and feet of those who had accepted the mark. "They will think they are free," Jesus said, "but they will be prisoners." I saw churches closing, Bibles being burned, preachers standing in front of empty pews. People who had once proclaimed their faith now stood silent, marked, unable to feel the presence of God. "But tell them there is hope," Jesus said.